What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to week 4 of college football picks. 25% through the regular season. 12 weeks. I think there's a bye week in there, so there's 13 or whatever. But each team's played 3 games. And yeah, so let's see what week 4 has in store. I made a rankings video not too long ago. Let me see when that was released. 2 days ago, made a top 15 list. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that every week. Maybe that'll be an every other week sort of deal. But that was a lot of fun making that. So I'm gonna pull up ESPN now, so I actually have spreads for games, so I can talk about how much each team might be favored by. I was working on the board in class. And this guy goes, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." I make like pictures and stuff. So I go, "Who do you think's gonna?" I was doing the feature games. I go, "Who do you think's gonna win, Arkansas or A&M?" He goes, "No, I don't watch football. I just thought what you were doing looked cool." I'm like, "Okay." um, but yeah, let's get into it. Here's what the board's looking like. Every week there's 26 games on the board. That's the number, by the way. And last week, 23-3. I was very impressed with myself. That's the best week I've had so far. 23-3. The 3 games I missed were Marshall and Bowling Green was one of them. I can't even remember the other 2, but I know I messed up Marshall and Bowling Green. For a lot of teams, conference play starts this week, so a lot of conference matchups in here. A lot of teams starting conference play. Some teams have already started conference play. Some teams maybe will have not started conference play yet. We'll see. First game on Thursday night, West Virginia and Virginia Tech, 2 teams who have had pretty disappointing starts to the year. West Virginia, of course, lost to Pitt week 1 and then lost in overtime to Kansas. It was the first time Kansas has won their Big 12 opener since like 2009 or something. So good for Kansas, bad for West Virginia. They beat the life and soul to live out of Towson last week. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, lost to Old Dominion the first week. That is a disappointing loss. They did beat Boston College and Wofford. What I find interesting is that Virginia Tech is at home for this game. And they're only and West Virginia actually is a 2-point favorite. I don't really get that. I'm not impressed with West Virginia. I think Virginia Tech's going to rise to the occasion at home. Syracuse is 3-0 after beating Purdue. They even got some votes to be ranked. That's how good Syracuse has been looking. They beat Louisville 31-7. Then everyone's like, "Oh, Louisville's not that great." And Louisville hasn't looked terrible. I mean, they beat UCF and had a competitive game against Florida State, beat the hell out of UConn, and then had a great game against Purdue. I wasn't able to watch any of this game because I was at the IU game while this game was going on, but I watched the highlights of this game. Syracuse was up 9-10, or they're up 9-10 going into the fourth quarter. Purdue scored 20 points in the fourth quarter, and Syracuse scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. Syracuse scored a touchdown with 7 seconds left to take the lead. The fourth quarter of that game was wild. There were 42 points scored in the fourth quarter. So Syracuse is 3-0. Here's another thing. Take a look at the basketball schools. The list of basketball schools that are 3-0. IU, Syracuse, Duke, Kansas, North Carolina are all 3-0. It's wild, man. All the basketball schools, they're like everything schools, question mark. I'm going to take Syracuse over Virginia. Virginia had the snot kicked out of them by Illinois earlier this year, so they're not that great. IU and Cincinnati. IU's 3-0. I was at the game last week when they beat Western Kentucky. That was a wild game. That game was so wild to be at. Western Kentucky dominated that whole game. But IU kind of held around. It hung around enough to where it was still kind of a game. And then in the fourth quarter, Western Kentucky had a fumble or whatever. IU ended up marching down, tied the game with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Western Kentucky drives down, had a field goal for the win. It got blocked. So it went to overtime. Western Kentucky got the ball, tried to kick another field goal, had it blocked again. And then IU nailed like a 50-yarder to win it. They got to go at Cincinnati, though. And Cincinnati's a 17-point favorite. And it's going to be tough for IU to win this game. I mean, I hope I'm wrong in my assessment of this game. I hope IU comes out, but I don't know. Cincinnati, IU actually held Cincinnati. It was a competitive game last year when Cincinnati was a top 5 team in the country and IU was 2-10. So maybe IU could hold them here. I mean, they're playing well. They're hot right now, but if I was a betting man, I'd take Cincinnati. Georgia and Kent State. I mean, Georgia's what? They've given up 10 points all year. Kent State's not doing anything. I'm sorry. Maryland and Michigan. Michigan is a 16.5-point favorite. This will be the first real team they play. They had a pretty easy out-of-conference schedule. Maryland, on the other hand, is 3-0. The Big Ten East collectively is 20-1. The only loss being Michigan State getting smashed on the road by Washington. Michael Penix looked damn good. Former IU quarterback. I gotta go Michigan in this one. I mean, Maryland has looked pretty good to start the year. Beat Buffalo, Charlotte, and SMU. But that's no Michigan. J.J. McCarthy's look great. I think Michigan should have a nice, easy time at home in their Big Ten opener. Wake Forest and Clemson. Now, this is the game that I'm looking at, man. Pretty much a featured game. This is pretty much a featured game. Wake Forest, to start the year, beat VMI, Vanderbilt, and then Servat. Wow, was this a scare on Saturday. Liberty, 37-36. They come out of that game with a win. I mean, Liberty had the lead for a while in that game. Liberty had the lead. And then Wake Forest came back, took the lead. Liberty scored a touchdown that would have tied it. They went for 2 in the win. Didn't get it. But I'm going to give Wake Forest a pass because you could call that a trap game because you say they're looking ahead towards this game against Clemson. And Clemson really hasn't looked too strong. I mean, they have 3 wins over 3 terrible teams, and they weren't really dominating. Like, Michigan scored over 50 points in all of their games, and I think allowed less than, 20 in all of them. Clemson's had some kind of games, like games where they haven't looked dominant. I mean, neither has Wake Forest. But this is a home game for Wake Forest, and the thing with games like this, it's like the whole campus is looking forward for this specific game. It's the biggest game on the schedule. That's how it's like here with Michigan. Michigan comes to town in 3 weeks. IU plays Cincinnati, then they're at Nebraska, and then Michigan comes to town. And people have been talking about this whole week, and it's going to be a sellout. That's what it's going to be like for this game. It's the biggest game of the year for Wake Forest. At least home game of the year for Wake Forest. I think Sam Hartman's going to show out. I think he's going to show out, give Clemson's defense some problems, and I think Clemson's offense struggles enough to where Wake Forest can squeak out a win. That's my upset special this week. Actually, I have another one on here. I got another upset special for y'all, but I'm going to take Wake Forest in this game. Penn State and Central Michigan. Central Michigan's usually one of the better group of 5 teams, although they're 1-2 and 28-point dogs. I think this one's going to be Penn State. Baylor and Iowa State. Iowa State a 3-point home favorite. I'm telling you, these games are the hardest ones to predict, where you've got like a ranked team that really should win, but they're playing at a tough environment, and the team with the tough environment's favored. It's like, I don't know who to pick here. I'm going to pick Baylor. I know Iowa State's undefeated, but, I mean, they haven't, I don't think they're that great. I mean, they beat Iowa 10-7. Iowa might be one of the worst teams in college football. I'm sorry, one of the worst offenses in college football. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Iowa State. I think Baylor's a better team. I think they're overall better. They lost to BYU already. I don't think they're going to lose another game like that. I think Baylor's going to win. Who would have thought You know the people where the guy's like, hey, look at us. Hey, who would have thought that Duke and Kansas would both be undefeated right now? 3-0, both of them are. I know neither one of them's played anyone good, but still. I mean, Kansas beat West Virginia. They're not that bad. And Kansas is a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Honestly, Kansas has looked good. Like, beat Tennessee Tech 56-10. Beat Houston on the road, a team that was ranked in the preseason. Houston was, and they were Houston was like fighting on the sidelines and stuff. And one guy that came after his teammate pushed him down. And that's what losing to Kansas will do to you. But look at Kansas looked a lot better. Kansas is looking like a Big 12 title contender threat. I said it. No. I kid, of course, but I'm going to take Kansas in this game. I mean, what did Kansas have? One win last year? Or no, they had 2 wins. They had a win over an FCS team, and then they beat Texas. Oh, speaking of Texas, they will take on Texas Tech this week. And Texas is a 6.5-point road favorite. I'm going to take Texas. I mean, they looked impressive in that, and they've looked good so far throughout the year. Beat a good UTSA team. Almost lost that game, but they held in there and won. Texas Tech kind of got blown out at NC State this past week, 27-14. I'm gonna for sure take Texas in this game. That's another one where it's like, oh, it's the biggest game of the year for Texas Tech. But I don't think Texas Tech's not great. So yeah. Let's move on. Notre Dame and UNC. Now, after the events of earlier season for Notre Dame, they're 1-2. They did beat Cal last week, barely. I watched that game at this one sports bar on campus for IU. We went there after the big dub over Western Kentucky and watched the game. We're like, is Cal gonna beat them? Are they gonna be 0-3? No, they did end up getting a win. They got to go to UNC now. A UNC team that's playing really well. A UNC team that beat App State week 1. Or no, they beat FAMU in week 0. And then they beat App State last week. Or they beat App State the first week. An App State team that won on a Hail Mary against Troy. We'll talk about that later. An App State team that beat Texas A&M. And North Carolina, they beat Georgia State. Struggle win against Georgia State. Almost lost that game. They only won by 7. And were down in portions of that game. But then they had a bye week last week, and they're going to be coming off a bye week against a big opponent, Notre Dame. I think they're going to be preparing well. They're going to see the struggles Notre Dame has been having and exploit them. I think UNC is favored by 2 in this game. I think they win. I'm gonna take UNC. Michigan State and Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's been getting some votes to be ranked. They're the only undefeated team. I think the Big Ten West, I said the Big Ten East is 20-1. I think the Big Ten West is like 12-10. But Minnesota is the only undefeated team in there. Beat the snot out of all 3 teams they've played. New Mexico State, Western Illinois. They beat Colorado 49-7. Colorado is winless this year. And now they got to go on the road at Michigan State, a Michigan State team that got exposed against Washington. That was an ugly game to watch, man. Saturday prime time, 7:30 slot, and in the blink of an eye, it was 22-0 Washington. I mean, there was a safety in that game. Michael Penix balled out, man. Michigan State had the worst pass defense in the country. Then again, though, I feel like it's not easy to play teams coming off a loss. I kind of learned that. Teams coming off a loss can sometimes be dangerous because they're going to be focused up more and they're going to fix their problems. So that's why I'm going to take Michigan State to win a close game. I think this is going to be a really good game. Minnesota's favored by 2.5. If that gets up to 3, that would be a pretty good bet to lay down. MSU plus 3 at home. I would take that. We'll see. Minnesota's got some dogs. Mohamed Ibrahim. I don't know who their QB is now. But Mo Ibrahim, their running back, is really good. That's part of they're definitely a better running offense than passing offense. That's part of why I'm taking Michigan State. Should be a good game though. I like the fact that MSU's at home. James Madison and App State. App State, okay, they've had probably the wildest seasons. Dude, the season App State has had is wild as hell. First game against North Carolina, they scored 40 points in the fourth quarter and lost. My goodness, that game was wild. UNC wins a shootout 63-61. Then they got to go on the road to play number 6 Texas A&M, and they shut it down like the whole game. The whole game. They shut it down and won 17-14 in one of the biggest upsets of the year. Then College Game Day comes to town, and it was a raucous environment there, College Game Day, to take on Troy, at the time, a 1-1 Troy team that wasn't really that great. And a lot of times teams don't play that well coming off a huge high emotional win, and it doesn't get more high emotional than beating Texas A&M. And Troy comes out, they're about to win the game. Troy, oh man, that sucks, man, for Troy. But App State, they got one last chance for a Hail Mary. They throw it, and it looks like it's going to be too short. Ball gets tipped up in the air. App State receiver comes out of the pile and catches it and goes around everyone for a touchdown, a Hail Mary, and a win for App State. Now they got to play new to FBS level James Madison. They were consistently one of the 5 best FCS teams. They were up there with North Dakota State, who needs to be FBS. I mean, come on. The Mountain West. How has the Mountain West not taken North Dakota State yet? I mean, come on. The fact that North Dakota State would probably be the best team in the Mountain West, and they still haven't taken them. They could have a rivalry with Boise State. They could have a rivalry with, I don't know, whoever the hell. I haven't played Minnesota. I know they beat Minnesota one year, but North Dakota State needs to join a Power 5 conference, just like James Madison. But James Madison's 2-0, beat MTSU 44-7 and Norfolk State 63-7. I think they'll give App State a tough game, but once again, App State riding high, America's team. I think they would be leading for the New Year's 6 bid out of the group of 5. I think they'd be leading for that. We'll see. They don't have an easy schedule. I mean, let's see. Maybe they could run the table. We'll see. I'm going to take App State. Washington State and Oregon. I went back and forth on this game. I really did. I thought about taking Washington State. Oregon's a 6.5-point road favorite, but Washington State has looked good, man. Beat Idaho by 7. I know that's not an impressive win, but Idaho almost beat IU too, so. Then went on the road and beat Wisconsin. I did not think that was going to happen, at all, that I think that Washington State had any chance in that game. Beat them 17-14. And then they beat the snot out of Colorado State, and now they're coming back home. I don't know. I'm tempted to pick Washington State, but I think Oregon's all around a more talented team. They mollywopped BYU. BYU did not stand a chance in that game. Oregon did exactly what I said they would do, coming out good after a loss to Georgia. Big ranked opponent. They're going to rise to the occasion. They did that. I'm going to take them over Washington State. Next thing we got Northern Illinois and Kentucky. Northern Illinois usually pretty good, but Kentucky's 25.5-point favorites. They're for real this year. Kentucky and Tennessee are going to be contenders in that East Division. Iowa and Rutgers. Iowa's a 7.5-point favorite. I don't know why. This team can barely score. I mean, Rutgers isn't that great either. I mean, they beat Temple by 2, Boston College by 1. But Iowa's offense can't even score at home. How are they going to score on the road? I don't know. I got a gut feeling, and it says Rutgers. Vandy, oh boy. Oh boy. Alabama's rotating SEC West opponent is Vandy. And they are 40.5-point favorites. Vandy just lost to Wake Forest. Vandy actually, I will say, Vandy is 3 wins away from bowl eligibility. Beat Hawaii, Elon, and Northern Illinois. And then lost to Wake Forest. But they would need 3 SEC wins for bowl eligibility. And I mean, maybe you beat South Carolina and Mizzou. I don't know. You're not beating Alabama. Sorry. Can we get Vandy to bowl eligibility? I think maybe we can. We'll see. Ohio State and Wisconsin. This is primetime ABC. I mean, Wisconsin has struggled with Ohio State. When was the last time Wisconsin has beaten Ohio State? I mean, there are teams that have got, there are teams out there that beat Ohio State every once in a while. Like, Michigan beat them last year. Michigan State has beaten them in the past. Iowa got a win against them. Purdue got a win against them. Who else? I'm trying to think. Penn State's got a win against them. But Wisconsin, when was the last time Wisconsin even beat Ohio State? I have no idea. I mean, all those teams in recent memory have at least one win against Ohio State. I mean, I can't even remember the last time Wisconsin got one. And they're 18-point dogs. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think Ohio State wins big. NC State and UConn. NC State's 38.5-point favorites. Yeah, they should roll. NC State's looking pretty good. They've rebounded since that close, horrifying game against East Carolina that they should have lost. They've rebounded well. Who else we got? Oklahoma and Kansas State. Oklahoma's looked really good, man. They looked really good. They're 13-point favorites at home. To be honest, that seems a little low. Kansas State's 2-1. They are coming off. Talk about a trap game, or preparing for Oklahoma too early. They lost to Tulane last week. Yikes. 13 points seems low. Give me Oklahoma. Boston College and Florida State. Florida State favored by 16.5. Yeah, they should win. I'm not sure by how much, but they should win. Boston College not good this year. Is Florida State making a bowl? That was unheard of to start the year, maybe, for Florida State. Now they're at 3-0. They've looked good doing it, too. Beat LSU and Louisville. We'll see. Maybe Florida State can go bowling this year. We'll have to see. This is a game. I wish it didn't kick off at 9:30, but this is a game I think could be a fun one. I think this could be a really fun game. I got this one circled this week. I'm excited for this one. USC and Oregon State. Before I talk about this game, USC and Oklahoma need to play. They need to play this year, whether that be a bowl game or the playoff or whatever the hell. In the upcoming future, Oklahoma and USC need to play. Oklahoma fans don't even refer to Lincoln Riley as Lincoln Riley. They refer to him, at least what I heard from this is what Uncle Lou said. He goes, they refer to him as TBOW. That bitch out west is what they refer. So Oklahoma and USC need to play. They're also right next to each other in the rankings and in talent level, pretty much. I think Oklahoma's a little bit better. But Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison and their receivers have been looking great. But they got to go on the road to Oregon State, and historically, they've had a rough time here. In Corvallis, I think at one point, a while ago, they were the number 1 ranked team in the country, I think, and got beat at Oregon State. The Beavs, I think, are going to come out rocking this game. How well? At Oregon State's 3-0. They've had a good year so far. They've been dropping points on people. 34-17 over Boise State in a game I thought would have been close. Blew them out. Had a scare at Fresno State, but they won on the last play of the game, and then dropped 68 on Montana State. I'm sorry, it's hard to drop 68 on anyone. And USC is a 6.5-point favorite in this game. So it's not completely out of the question to pick Oregon State in this game. Their quarterback, Chance Nolan's been good. When it comes to USC, they've also looked good. They beat Fresno State by a bunch, and Oregon State barely beat them. You know what? I got a gut feeling. At home, Oregon State's at home. I think the crowd's going to show out and show up in Corvallis. Give me the Beavers for a big-time upset here of USC. I'm telling you, those late-night Pac-12 games are wild, man. Wild stuff happens with Pac-12 after dark. Give me Oregon State. Wyoming and BYU. I'm going to say BYU bounce back game. They're favored by 22.5. At home, bounce back game. I think they'll get it done. And then Stanford and Washington. Actually, Utah and Arizona State also play. I forgot to put it on the board. Arizona State, Herm Edwards, head coach, was fired before he got off the field. Arizona State's been in a perpetual state of disappointment. And after losing to, I forget who they lost to, he was met by the athletic director and I forget who else, but they were just like, your services are no longer needed here. So Utah will win that. But Washington and Stanford. Washington looked good, man, against Michigan State. They got another home game, too, against Stanford. I'm going to take Washington in this one. All right, now to the featured games. There were so many games that were in featured game. Like, I was going to put USC, Oregon State. I was going to put Clemson, Wake Forest. I was going to put Vandy and Alabama. I'm kidding. But there are a lot of good games this week. But these are the two that I think are the best. Arkansas and Texas A&M. Now, both of these teams have dreams and aspirations of an SEC West crown. And they will both, this is both of their, for both of them, this is their first SEC game. I know A&M's already lost, but they can still win the West because they haven't played any SEC games yet. This is kind of been the tale of two seasons for both of these teams. Arkansas has had a really good offense, scored 31 against Cincinnati, beat them, scored 44 against South Carolina, and had a scare and a half last week against Missouri State and former coach Bobby Petrino. Man, if they would have lost that game, that would have been the most embarrassing loss of the entire college football season. But you know what? Maybe a trap game because they're playing A&M the following week. Hung on and won. Now Arkansas takes on Alabama next week at home. But they got to get through A&M first. And A&M lost to App State, obviously, horrifyingly bad loss. They played Miami last week in a game they pretty much had to win to keep any hopes of any good season alive. I think they started 1-2. Would have been bad, but they did beat Miami 17-9. Now, here's the thing about A&M. A&M is very similar to Iowa. They have one of the best defenses in the country. Maybe the best defense in the country for A&M. I mean, the most points they've allowed is 17 to App State, and then they lost the game. But their offense is bad. I mean, they Haynes King, who started the season at quarterback, was terrible. They finally put in Max Johnson last week, who I thought should have been the starter this whole year. They put in Max Johnson. 10 of 20 for 140 yards and a touchdown. I mean, scoring 17 points a game not going to win you games, A&M. I'm sorry. Their offense needs to turn the corner here. This is a neutral site game. This is a neutral site game at Jerry's World, I believe. I think it's played in Dallas. A&M's a 2-point favorite. I went back and forth on this game like 4 different times. But the reason I'm going to take who I'm taking, Arkansas's defense has been suspect. 24 to Cincinnati, that was a good game, but 30 to South Carolina and 27 to Missouri State. I'm sorry, an SEC caliber defense should be playing better than that. I'm gonna take A&M because I think with the way Arkansas's defense has been playing, A&M will score enough. They'll be able to score enough points to where their defense can hold them in the game. They'll get another defensive style win. The big wild card though is Arkansas quarterback KJ Jefferson. That man is a stud. He's an absolute stud, and he can run and create plays, and maybe could give A&M's defense fits. But I think overall, I'm gonna take A&M. I think they're the safer pick. And next, we got Tennessee and Florida. This is where game day's going. And, well, okay, so Florida was not, they bringing in a new head coach. They weren't supposed to do great this year. They're supposed to be pretty good, make a bowl, but, they weren't supposed to have this great season. Well, they come out against a top 10 team in the first week, Utah, who everyone had in their top 10, and they beat them. They took care of Utah. Oh, Florida's going to have a great year. Anthony Richardson's going to win the Heisman. La-di-da-di-da. And then, after that high emotional win, they come out and lose to Kentucky. And then against South Florida, the next week, almost lost. In fact, they were losing at a point in that game. Trevor Etienne scored a touchdown in the in the last 5 minutes of the game to take the lead and win. This is their first road game. And it is against a team who is scorching hot. Absolutely on fire is Tennessee. And there's going to be 102,000 plus in Neyland Stadium. And it's going to be a checkerboard game where they checkerboard the stadium. It's going to be a hell of an environment for Florida to go in their first road game of the first true road game for Anthony Richardson, first true road game of the season. Tennessee, now they're a team, I know they're like, oh, they beat Ball State and Akron by a ton. There are teams that probably would not beat Ball State and Akron by 63-6 and 59-10. And played a really, really good Pitt team and beat him in overtime after starting the game slow. Tennessee is on a tear, and I think this is the coming out. Like, they've historically had problems against Florida. They're kind of like Michigan and Ohio State. Tennessee had only beaten Florida once in the last 15 years. This is the coming out party for Tennessee. This is when people are going to realize that Tennessee football is back. Hendon Hooker's going to ball out. He's my Heisman prediction, and I think he is going to have a hell of a game. Tennessee is 10.5-point favorites. I think they're for sure going to win this game. This is the moment for Tennessee football. They're going to come out and say, "We are back, baby." And they're going to beat the Gators while doing so. So these are my picks. I feel like this video was longer than normal. 31 minutes. That's not that much longer than normal, but I hope y'all enjoyed. Those are my picks. I love y'all. Thanks for watching. NFL picks will be uploaded tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Peace out.